Hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Today we're going to be talking about anger, okay? Which is it's a very dangerous emotion. It can consume you, it can destroy relationships, and it can steal your joy. So what I want to talk about today is how to go throughout life not living out a sinful anger. We're going to be talking about how Jesus got mad and how he didn't sin when he got angry because he had a righteous anger. And we're going to be talking about how to move forward in your life without living in anger, but in a way that's better, okay? So we're going to be starting in Matthew 5, right? Where Jesus says that he's the fulfillment of the law being the first 5 books of the Bible, which has numerous commands in them, including the 10 commands. Including the 10 commandments, sorry. Note that our effort isn't good enough to get us into heaven, which is why we're not saved by our works, but we're saved by having faith in Jesus. In Jesus, when we put our faith in him, we have a freedom because he fulfilled the law, all the commands that God gave us, and he fulfilled the law perfectly so that when we put our faith in him, we can have a sense of freedom. So when it comes to commands about tattoos and what foods you should eat, what clothes that you should wear, and the animal sacrifices that you see in the law, we don't have to follow those commands because Jesus, we have a new sense of freedom in him. Yes, some commands in the law still do apply and that we should still follow them, okay? Such commands as do not murder, because murder is not something that comes out of love, but something that comes out of rage, anger, evil, okay, and sin. We shouldn't throw away these commands, but we should rather understand them as they are meant to be understood, okay? So what is there to understand? That we shouldn't live like the Pharisees lived, following God on the surface as it looked like, but they really didn't have a heart change, okay? They'd rather burden the people than see their own needs, okay? Jesus himself got angry at the Pharisees because they were putting religious ritual over human need. We need to understand and see God's intent behind the commandments in the law. One of them, do not murder, right? He's telling us do not murder. But Jesus says here in Matthew 5, verse 22, but I tell you, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment immediately after saying that you should not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. So what is he trying to say here? Whoever hates their brother and their sister is already a murderer, as 1 John 3:15 says. So the first step to being obedient to the command, do not murder, is to eliminate your anger for someone else. And anger, being this dangerous emotion, can actually be a sin. Okay, look, anger in itself is not a sin, but it becomes a sin when it gets out of control, when it begins to rule our life, and when it gets destructive. Anger can become sinful when you start to let it dwell within you, and when you start to be so caught up on revenge, and when you start holding grudges against others. This is how anger can become sinful, whether in an attitude or an action that you have. Even thoughts that stem from anger can become sinful. But the anger that Jesus had wasn't a sinful anger. It was actually called righteous indignation. Righteous indignation. Why wasn't it sinful? Because the righteous anger that Jesus had was in defense or support of a biblical principle. It served to better a situation or a person. So his anger wasn't selfish. His anger wasn't because he didn't get his own way. His anger wasn't holding a grudge against another person. His anger served to better a situation or a purpose. And there are many examples in the Bible that show this. Jesus got mad at his disciples and at the Pharisees for them hindering others to be able to come to Christ. This was the righteous indignation that Jesus had. In some cases in life, we may be a little bit miffed about something, which is a funny word. It means a little bit annoyed, a little bit frustrated, right? We should not let this anger get out of control, okay? We should not let this anger lead to destruction, because anger can lead to destruction. We shouldn't be consumed with revenge, and we shouldn't hold grudges against others, and we absolutely should not be unwilling to forgive others, for God forgives us. When it comes to forgiveness, the best way to forgive others is for their own good and their benefit, but if you can't do so, then I'd rather you forgive so that you can be forgiven by God than you not forgive them at all. For remember the verse that says, if you forgive others, then God will forgive you, but if you don't forgive others, then you will not be forgiven by God. Keep that in mind. So how in the world do we go throughout this life learning not to be so angry in a sinful manner? Let me tell you. Let's be slow to speak and watch what comes out of our mouth. We shouldn't provoke others to anger, which can also lead to us being angry. We should be speaking things that build others up, okay? Let's be quick to listen to others. Listen to what others have to say and hear where they're coming from. Let's be considerate instead of needing everything to always have to go our way. Let's be slow to anger. For our human anger, which can consume us in rage, it does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Let us therefore not be angry at our brothers and sisters, but live in love and love others as Jesus loves us. For love does no harm to a neighbor. So if you're angry with someone, okay, go be reconciled to them. Ask God for forgiveness, okay? Although this command is uncomfortable and it's made me feel uncomfortable when I was reading it, it is ultimately the command that is best for us, okay? For anger is not a way that we should be living, as it steals our joy. It can consume us in a fit of rage, and it can cause us to do horrible, sinful acts. Instead, we should live in love and patience, which, although it can be difficult to do, is ultimately better for us and better for others. And this is how we should strive to live. One of the best ways that I can cool down when I'm angry is to acknowledge the fact that I'm angry, take a couple of breaths, and to slowly let that anger go. To just let it go and let God have it. And it can be difficult to do sometimes, but when you realize that you're feeling angry, the best thing to do is to let it go. Remember that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, so take heart. The best way to be set free from anger is to go to Jesus. And if you want to grow a relationship with Him today, and if you want to be saved through Jesus today, put your faith in Him. You can read the description and watch the video below. It'll guide you on how to do so, and how to grow a relationship with God. But I love you guys so much, okay? Have a good rest of your day.